Hello. We are about to get started with the Morning Cup right here on YouTube and StreamYard and Facebook and LinkedIn. We are everywhere this morning, and I'm very excited because we have a couple of guests coming on who are actually going to be leading full-on sessions at Biz LifeCon, which I cannot believe is Friday and Saturday. By the way, we are kicking off Biz LifeCon at the Clayton with Cocktails and Conversations with Julie Kaczynski. So we hope to see you there. Tickets are at secondactwomen.com. You can find everything there. Now, today, have you ever wanted to write a book? I think a lot of people have, especially those of us over 40, 50, 60 plus, because we have so much to share, whether it's about business or life experiences. I don't know, to get it out there and on paper and then publish it. So we have Dana Ellington, who is here with us today out of the ATL, but she's coming into Denver for Biz LifeCon to talk about how she published her first book, what she does for a day job, and how you can do it too. Then we have Kate. Now, Kate's going to have to help me with her last name. I think it's Huffnagel. And she's going to be talking about building a legacy. Have you ever thought what it is you want people to think about you and how they're going to memorialize you? Yes, I'm talking about that fateful day that things may happen. So we're going to be talking about that. I'm so excited to welcome our first guest to the stage about building a book. Dana Ellington, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, you're so welcome. I want to know if the weather is going to be in Atlanta as hot as it is here in Denver. It's going to be 85 today.
Yeah, and I am looking forward to it because it's supposed to be in the 50s and 60s around here. So definitely happy to be coming home to some heat.
Oh my goodness. And you know what? You come here to Denver, by the way. So you have business here in Denver and there, and you've written several books, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But tell me about your day job besides being a writer and publisher.
I have actually been a professional administrative assistant for more years than I care to count. And so I currently work for for Savannah College of Art and Design, which is would have been my dream college, right? Coming out of high school. Definitely I'm surrounded now by creative types, and the inspiration is never ending at this point. So happy to be here.
Yes, isn't that the truth? Let's talk about building the book. You're going to lead a session about building your very first book. What was your first book and what made you write it?
Okay, so funnily enough, I have wanted to be I've wanted to be a published author since I was about 7. And long about 12, I started putting, little bits and pieces of scenes or dialogue or things that would come to me. But writing was something you did as a hobby, right? It wasn't a job, it wasn't a career. And I knew I didn't want to go into journalism. I didn't want to teach. So I ended up again in, as an administrative professional. So I'm sitting on one of those jobs where I'm looking around at the cube farm and I'm thinking, this is not for me. I really want to go ahead and live my dream. And I was in my late 30s, early 40s at the time. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and publish that first book, right? So I gathered up a bunch of little bits and pieces that I had on my hard drive. And at the time, for whatever reasons, I pulled together a bunch of erotic writing that I had done.
Did you say neurotic? Neurotic?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay, ma'am. I want to make sure I had that right. What word right? All right,
gotcha. It was spicy. And so I figured, okay, well, erotica always sells, so I'm a shoe-in, right? And started sending out my query letters and was getting the rejection slips left and right. Not one to be deterred. I decided, well, I can learn how to publish a book, right? It's got to be easy. So a couple of little Google searches here and there. I found a book manufacturer not far from where I was living at the time. And I was able to meet with the owner of the company who talked me through the process. I went home, pulled my little stuff together, formatted it, sent it to the printer, got 25 copies made. Next thing you know, I'm a self-published author. And I went about selling all 25 copies, right?
Right.
Before I looked at the proof. So,
Uh-oh.
first tip number one to anybody thinking about this, please, 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 please read the proof, look through the proof before you press order. Because I
And
have
by that
sold.
you mean literally proof the whole book before.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. When I looked at that, finally, I realized that I really didn't know what I was doing. And so I went back, got my master's in professional writing, and then went
Oh,
on to write and self-publish the next 6 books.
okay. You've done 6 books. Sorry, I'm hot flashing, so I got to get my fan.
I
I have
know
a
the
desk
feeling.
fan. We were just talking about hot flash, right? So,
Mhm.
so you just you have 6 books. What are some of the tips that you would give someone who's looking to write their very first book? What would
Okay.
be maybe the first 2 to 3 things that they need to do the minute they watch this and they're ready to push play?
All right. First things first, do not buy into the myth that writing is hard. It is not.
Yeah, because we think it
What
is.
you want to do is realistically look at your life as it is right now. I tell all of my clients that we're going to fit the writing into how you live, as opposed to cutting out everything, as opposed to locking yourself away in that cabin in the woods kind of thing. We're going to fit the writing in. Next thing would be to understand that you can get a lot accomplished in short spurts. So set that
And
timer
get a lot accomplished. How?
in short spurts.
Short spurts. Okay.
Mhm. So
Okay.
once you've decided basically what you want to write, your writing schedule can consist of 5, 10, 15-minute writing sessions that you sprinkle throughout your day.
Oh, okay.
And
Writing schedule. Okay.
number three, and this one's important, your first draft is going to be some of the ugliest writing you have ever done in your life. And that's okay. It's supposed to look like crap, because when you're getting that story told, be it fiction, nonfiction, whether you're writing a how to guide for your customers, for your clients, that first draft needs to be just flat out ugly, but it needs to be complete. It needs to have all of the ideas that you want to include. And
Okay.
once you get to the end, okay, we'll take a step back. Then you can polish it, but get the story told, get the writing done, and allow it to just, I
Flow for
tell
you.
people, take your inner critic, tie him to a chair, put him in the basement for as long as you need to get the story told, to get your first draft
Okay,
done.
I have a question. So, when you're doing these writing sprints throughout the day or throughout the week, if you can't do it daily, you're just basically throwing everything out of your brain, like a brain dump all the stories you want to share, and then right, and then how do you begin to weaving the story when you're doing
Okay.
this? I think that's what scares people too. Is you've got so much you want
Hmm.
to say, especially for somebody like me who has ADHD, and all of a
Right,
sudden you've
right.
got stories that are like popping and popping and
Hmm.
popping. Uh-oh, we just lost her. I think she's coming back.
Uh-oh, there
There
we
she is.
go. That's where the build a book comes in, because I call it ADOSS. I have attention deficit, something shiny. What happens to me is I'll get those multiple story ideas all over the place, and I
See,
need
the
a
S
way to
would be
capture
squirrel for
them.
me.
See, I need a way to capture them while I'm working on a single project. So what I'll do is I have a dedicated notebook where the ideas go. So regardless of
Oh,
when the ideas pop, that's where they go. But my single project, the one that I'm focused on, will be in its own notebook. So I from start to finish, everything related to that project is in that notebook.
got it. And then do you make it easier on yourself, or you also then and this is the organizational side of me, do you then put at the top the title of that subject on that page in that notebook?
I might put I have dedicated sections, but within those sections, there's
Oh.
subject to be some of everything at the top. I
Oh.
may lead with a date. I may lead with a character name because I do write fiction. But
Yeah.
for somebody else, let's say,
Okay.
for example, you're doing a business book. You're talking about how to do a particular thing. Then
Yeah.
what might go at the top of those pages are those particular steps you want somebody to follow,
Yes.
and then under that you're going to write your details,
Yeah.
your all the things related to that step that you want to convey to your reader.
I love this. And I'm so excited about you being at BizLifeCon to teach us more about writing that book. And I guess the last question I would have, because you've given us actually lots of tips, is do you have to be creative to write a book? What do you have to be
You
a certain personality type?
All humans are creative. It's the way you go about it. Engineers, even though they don't think they're quote creative, they are problem solvers and they use all kinds of things to solve engineering problems. So everybody's creative. So no, you don't have to be this artistic type who's, got a vocabulary that spans 3 different dictionaries or encyclopedias, right? You don't
Yeah.
have to have a huge amount of knowledge about the subject you're writing on, because why? You can Google, you can research, you can interview people, you can do all kinds of things to fill in those gaps. What you really
Yeah.
need to have is that desire to get the story told,
The desire to
whatever
get
that
the story
story may
told.
be. Hmm.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and you're going to stick around in case we have questions or want to continue the conversation. So, Dana, you are going to be with us again at BizLifeCon. On
Yeah.
your session is on Saturday. BizLifeCon starts
Mhm.
on Friday, really Thursday night with cocktails and conversations.
Right, right.
But I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Fly safely into Denver from Atlanta, and stand by. We're gonna bring in. And so we'll be back with you. Oh, I accidentally cut her off. Hello, Kate. Kate, how do I say your last name?
Oh, Barbara, you got it right. It's Huffnagel.
Nagel. I love it. And Nagel. I think about the Nagels I bought and had on my wall when I was in college in the 80s. Oh my God, we loved Nagels. I want to hear more about legacy. And it's funny, I am actually reading this book called Living Forward. And I'm gonna have it a part of my book club. And it talks about what legacy do you want to lead? And literally crafting your legacy. A lot of times we don't want to think about death. Sadly, that we have to at least have something in place, whether it's our plans, our next of kin box, but also perhaps maybe think about what legacy or what will people say about us, right, on that fateful day. Let's talk about what you're going to be live on about legacy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Dana just mentioned engineers. So I actually have a couple of degrees in engineering.
A
And
couple? You said not just one,
I
you
do.
said a couple.
I do. Yeah, some people call me a rocket scientist, at least in a previous life.
I love it.
But to me, Barbara, like you were talking about with legacy, right? It is, how do we want to be remembered? How do we want people to feel when our name is mentioned? And what I bring to the table and excited to talk about on Saturday is this like technology piece. It blows my mind. It makes me, quite frankly, really angry when clients and friends tell me stories of how technology, which makes our lives so much easier, works against us when we are not around to help our loved ones, or even if we're unable to communicate and tell them about passwords or tell them where this is.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hoping to expand people's horizons on Saturday and get them thinking about another dimension of legacy.
So when you say technology, are you saying technology and legacy? Um, so you're saying having, okay, let me take a step back actually. Stress for women. Let's just first, before we had to go back into technology, stress for women during this time of life, which I like to call adolescence, right, tends to really, really increase. We're caregiving on both sides, literally on both sides. And for those of us that don't have kids, it's just on the one side, but it's a lot is going on besides trying to carry our careers, besides trying to carry whatever else may be when it comes to life. And so what do you think is happening? What's we're talking about legacy and stress and life and midlife and
Yeah, so you've almost taken the words out of my mouth, Barbara, right? We are going through the sandwich generation. We are taking care potentially of aging parents or aging loved ones. We are helping to raise kids or ushering them out of the nest or helping them fly on their own, right? And we have our businesses and we have our clients too. So physically and or emotionally, we're being pulled in different directions, right?
yes.
At the top of the broadcast, you showed your fan, right? We're also going through these physical changes that our body is going through in this chapter of our lives. And thirdly, we're also just trying to focus on ourselves too, right? Whether
Yeah.
that's moving our bodies, being more mindful and present, nurturing the relationships with our partner or our friends. And so when you think about it, we're trying to accommodate and adapt to many demands, countless changes, and numerous priorities, like all at the same time. So we've got like we're just like oozing with stress right now.
Whoa, oozing with it. And it sounds as though you being having the science background, but also talking about legacy and having this self help part of what you do. Let's go back to the technology and that seems that can actually help us in caregiving, in gosh, just being with other people, even if it's on a Zoom call, right? When we're going through these times in our lives where it's stressful. Tell us more about the tech component again, about legacy, who we are, how we live our lives, and all of those things.
Sure, absolutely. So, like you said, right, technology in our lives today, we can leverage that to make things easier for us, right? We can connect with our friends from college over Zoom or connect with loved ones, right? If we need to send an adult child some money, right? We can just open up an app and do that, right? We have run out of wine and we want to deliver some to our porch, right? We can get
Grizzlies
the wine
there.
shipped, right?
Yeah.
So technology in terms of our everyday lives can be such a remarkable asset, right? But when it comes to, heaven forbid, I'm in an accident and I'm unresponsive and I'm in the hospital room, and my husband, we just celebrated our first anniversary last week.
Oh,
Um, I'm in charge of household operations, right? The man doesn't know all of the bills that I'm paying, and I'm paying them online, right? So there's no
right.
paper bill showing up in the mailbox in 2 weeks' time, right? And so technology can, unfortunately, for better or for worse, work
Yeah.
against us when we're not able to communicate, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, there are that's one example of how technology is introducing complications. But let me just summarize it with this question.
Yeah.
Does anybody ever read that, I don't know, 172-page terms of service agreement when we're creating an email account or an online account? No, you're absolutely right. Nobody reads those things. I mean, okay, I'm a little bit
No.
dorky. I do, right? But those policies that we agree to in order to create that online account are pretty much saying that that company is protecting our privacy and protecting our data. And so they're not going to give anyone
Mhm.
access to our accounts. And these policies are in
Got it.
effect when we're alive, and they remain in effect if something happens to us. So ultimately,
Okay.
our loved ones have no ability and, quite frankly, little legal recourse to get access to our accounts. And it's really heartbreaking, the stories that people have shared with me. And this is really what kind of motivates me to help people, educate them in terms of all of the things that we have to do so that our loved ones don't go to court, don't have to
Yes.
pay $10,000 to get access to one account. And
Ah,
and the legal system, I mean, something's already happened to us. They're in no hurry. It can take 3 to 6 months.
well,
And
interesting you should say that, Kate, because we just learned, my brother's power of attorney, and then I'm the second on, but we also learned that our mother's banking account with ENS, Federal Credit Union, does not just want the power of attorney, but we have to actually provide even more paperwork to have access to our mothers. That wasn't good enough. And my brother's doing the finances and I'm health, but it was crazy how we had to jump through more hoops just to have access to her savings. And so you're absolutely right. Like, and it's great to have those things actually wrapped up in a nice bow now as your next of kin kit, in a sense, so that when that day comes and they're talking about you from wherever it may be as part of your legacy for your kids is also you've tightly wrapped everything up so that they can just love on you and not be worried when
that's
that day
right.
comes.
They're already going to be grieving our loss,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
let's make this difficult and challenging and trying time as easy as we can,
Yes.
right?
So, last question. Before we bring Neely on to talk about braiding up, because we're the CEO of our companies, and I want to ask you, what have you learned from your clients when it comes to death and dying?
Oh, I have learned so much. And fundamentally, there is actually a strong desire to talk about death and dying. Now, that being
Mm,
said, it is traditionally a taboo topic, right? And
yeah,
as a result, we do, at least when I say we, I mean my generation, right? I'm going to be 50 next year, right? We have few role models in this space because, generally
yeah,
speaking, the generation before us wasn't open to talking about death and dying.
they sure were.
Right. So the good news
Yeah.
is this is starting to change because,
Yes.
like, late breaking news, Barbara, we are all going to die. Right. Like, I know that's probably a
What?
shock. Right. So I see our generation leading the way, setting the example, and that looks like so many different things, right? It could be they're
Yeah.
pre-planning their cocktail party because they don't want a morbid, depressing funeral, right? Or they're putting together a playlist of the music that they want played, and or they're seeking out and learning about dying with dignity options. So
Yeah.
the death positivity movement is here and it's here to stay.
Wow. Death
Um,
positivity. That's a thing, huh?
it is.
Wow. Okay. And it has to be talked about because, as you said, breaking news, we will all pass someday. So, Kate, I'm really excited about having you at Biz LifeCon. And if you could stick around, we're going to talk to Neely Clute. Then we're all going to come back together and just wrap this up in a tight bow in case anyone has any more to add to it. So thank you so much. And I'm so happy you found Second Act Women and Biz Live Con.
Me too, Barbara. I look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Me too. Stick around. We're going to bring now Neely, you are joining us from here in Denver. So excited. We've known each other for a bit here. And I'm really thrilled to have you at your first Biz Live Con. And, you know, you're all about self-help, self-care, the brain. You've studied all of these things. You're an expert in the area of helping women and men and allies and humans when it comes to, you know, being the CEO of our company, and how do we do that? And how do we, you know, put everything, make sure that everything is running correctly, but also we're not burning out, frankly. And so introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself in 20 seconds or less. Let's jump right in and talk about braining up, as I like to say.
Excellent, Barbara. It's so good to see you today.
Yeah.
I have always just been fascinated with the human mind and have studied it, done research on it, and worked with educators and corporations on how to optimize your brain for performance for almost about 30 years. So I founded Agile Intellect right before COVID to help professionals learn how to show up as a brain boss, because your mind is truly your most powerful executive and your best asset, right? So as professional women, as you know, the research says we simply have to bring better brains to the table to have the same opportunities.
Yes.
So I have distilled all of that experience in neuroscience into a simple framework that is intentionally easy to implement. Very important.
Very
to
important.
Customize for you.
Very important, because if I may say, Neely,
Yeah.
because exactly what Kate just said, we have so much going on in our lives that we easy is better. You know, the KISS rule that we always learned in college, keep it simple. Silly. They used to say stupid, but yeah, you're right. So good.
Absolutely crucial. And I have gone head to head on this actually ended up sitting next to a Nobel Prize nominee on an airplane who was talked to him for 4 hours going from San Francisco to Hilo, and he did research on cell aging. And I presented this to him and said, "What do you think?" And he's like, "Well, you know, maybe it's not quite technical enough," because he's in that ivory tower place. And I said, no. This is intentionally simple and easy on purpose. This is what we need to be able to use this information. And so it's not something to add to your plate. It's something to create time prosperity and focus in your genius zone.
Time prosperity. Yeah. I like that. And I have a question. What is the most expensive mistake in working with professionals and being a professional and corporate women yourself? What are some of the most expensive? Because listen, there could be some expensive mistakes we make that we don't know are, but what are some of those mistakes that are consistently made by professionals and or business owners?
Yeah, it's an obvious one. It's mismanagement of human resources.
Okay, say that again.
Mismanagement of human resources, primarily your own, right? So you hear about burnout all the time, but few people really talk about the actual cost of showing up with a diminished mental bandwidth, because almost everything we do as professionals now requires knowledge work. And when you don't foster your executive function, it compromises absolutely everything. So if you cannot function in your genius zone to share that unique wisdom with the world that in innovative and powerful ways, then you're going to really struggle. And we struggle to get into that focused state and stay there long enough to be the CEO we could be.
You know what, Neely? That reminds me of something that was just covered on CBS Sunday Morning. You may not have seen it. I think it was CBS Sunday Morning. It was about our attention span and how our attention span has gotten to, I think, 47 seconds. And then we have to be, changing this or that, or we'll be watching TV, next thing you know, we're like texting and YouTubing, all of it at the same time during commercials, not during commercials.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's about 40 seconds to 47. It varies depending on who you talk to, but yeah,
okay.
you can only focus for about 40 seconds in front of a computer before you're distracted or interrupted.
Wow. And
40
then when you're
seconds.
interrupted, they had implied, or said, not even implied, said then it takes you moments or minutes to
It takes you an average of
recuperate.
23 minutes if you have an outside interruption or distraction. If it's an inner distraction, it takes longer.
Wow.
29 minutes is the average to get back on track. So
To get
when
back
you
on
add
track.
that up, how do
That's
we
a
get
lot of
anything done ever, right? How do we
Yes, that's a
do
lot
that?
of time wasted. And my a question then is, in your conversations with your clients today, when it comes to women in their second act, so women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, what are their biggest challenges right now? Because you heard what Kate and I were talking about with
Mhm.
time.
Yes, and I was completely on board with that. I went through this 2 years. It's been 2 years since my father died, and I'm
Oh,
still dealing with a lot of issues. So that is definitely something I'm dealing with. And I think it keeps us up late at night. I think just the cost of losing sleep is estimated to be about $411 billion
oh my
per
God.
year, just in the United States alone, just from
Oh
losing
my,
sleep. Okay,
just
so
from
and
losing.
that's only one component of the framework that I help people through to help them understand how to stay in that genius zone, how to show up for yourself,
Yeah.
and how to build a better brain for the future and stay sharp. But
Would you say,
outside of, I think the biggest challenge is age discrimination for us.
oh,
Outside
no
of that
doubt.
one, it's work-life balance. And that's exactly what she was talking about,
Yeah.
balancing those professional responsibilities with
Right.
family and personal commitments do get very complex once we get along in our careers. And
Yeah.
if you are a caregiver, like I know you are, and I am right now for my mom, and
Yeah.
let me tell you, I'm still getting charged by Amazon for my father's account because I cannot get into it 2 years later. And it took us a while to even do
No.
things like pay the mortgage.
Technology, Kate.
Yeah. So, yes, I oh,
Wow.
I would be a big cheerleader for that because I've just been through things I do not want to do to my own children. And as
Yes.
wise businesswomen, we have to have agility of mind to cope with all of these shifts in technology, the career plateaus that we experience,
Yes.
the financial impact of the gender pay gap that has accumulated over time. And now we're at a place where it's making a big difference for retirement or for taking care of ourselves later. And
Yeah.
all while we're doing this, we still need to maintain our health and our
Yeah.
wellness and our self-confidence as we gain years of experiences. Things
Yeah.
definitely shift in our bodies as we get older, which I utilize all of that to
Yes.
help get you into that genius zone that you can take what used to take you 8 hours and get it
Yeah.
down into 2 to
Wow.
accomplish that same thing. That's the
Okay, I
goal.
have a question. I
Yeah.
have a question. When you talk about genius zone, is that deep work? What that new term, deep work, is that time where you schedule on you can, for some, I guess, schedule out their day, their weeks, and that they're going to spend this much time on
Mhm.
deep work, like
Time
no
blocking. Yeah.
distractions, time blocking. Yes. Is
Time
that what you
blocking.
mean by
Yes.
genius zone as well? In a
Mhm.
sense where you're,
There's different kinds of focus, and when I say genius zone, this is when you are doing your most purposeful, important work to really accomplish something that you need to share uniquely
yeah,
with the world. So there's a lot of busy work that we do, right?
a
This is
lot.
where yeah, this is where you're getting into the heart of who you are and what you have to share. That's your CEO time. That is when you really want to bring that boss to
Valid.
the table and
Yeah.
do things that really only you can do. And
It's interesting that you should say the CEO time, because I highly believe in CEO strategy day or CEO strategy hours, whether that's a Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Sunday, whatever it may be. So it's interesting you should say that. You're going to be sharing even more of this at Biz LifeCon. I'm going to
yes.
bring the other ladies up because I have a question for all of you about work-life balance before I'm going to bring the others up. Here we go. Curious. Do you all believe that there is work-life balance? And I will share what I believe in it, but I know some of you are experts in it. Is there such thing as work-life balance for the woman who is over 40, 50, 60 plus, who has a shitload going on in her life?
Absolutely. You
Sorry for
can't not
cursing.
do it. You can't afford not to, because when you go
Can't
down,
afford
it's
not
that
to.
whole oxygen mask idea.
Yeah.
You have to be able to function and show up at your best in order to take care of anyone else. And we have that backwards. We really do.
Okay. Okay. What do you two think, Kate and Dana? Work-life balance.
I don't know that I have found it yet. But what I am doing is
Erica's with me because that's what I was going to say.
I pick a focus. So what I like to do is just pay attention that I'm spending time in each area, right? If I'm focused on work, then that gets my attention for so long. But then I know that I need to bring health. I need to bring my finances. I need to bring social time. I need to bring self-care into that. So what I don't know that I'm seeking balance as much as I'm making sure that I touch each area of my life, if not daily, then definitely on a weekly basis.
I love that. I love that. And Kate, and then I'm going to share what I am trying to do to get work-life balance. Kate, what do you think in about work-life balance? Miss Scientist?
To be blunt, I think this concept of work-life balance is a mirage. Right. I tend to focus similar to Dana, right? What are my priorities? What are my priorities today? What are my priorities for the week? What are my priorities for the month? What are my priorities for the year? And I let that drive where I then spend my energy and my time.
Okay, so I think that's where I'm at too. And you know what I love, by the way? This is the power of a woman being over 40, 50, 60 plus. We can all share and our differences and agree to disagree and continue a conversation, not say, well, she's right or she's wrong or whatever it may be, because we all have difference in opinions. Because I'm actually trying to get it. You can't see, but this is I started a new tradition for my birthday. I teach vision boarding and goal setting, smarter goal setting. Usually at the end of the year for business owners and beginning of the year for personal life. And I decided when I turned 57 a week and a half ago, that is when I'm going to do my new year, new Barbara work on, and I'm doing it in 90-day increments, which Neely, you might appreciate that. Because to me, my ADHD brain, and I'm wondering how many people would agree, it's better to work in these little short sprints of 90 days because it even makes it more exciting when I achieve it. And then I got the next 90 days and then the next 90 days. So thankfully, my birthday's Q4, which works perfectly. But yeah, so I have my personal here, and this is my business. And I have numbers and things that I want to achieve in fun and adventure and in business and life. So what do you guys think of that idea, by the way?
I love it.
Yeah, Barbara, that's incredible.
It's giving you some actual rewards. You're setting them up for yourself without even realizing that you are rewarding your brain every time you check that off. And you're able to, there's a lot of strategies that we can utilize that we don't understand exactly how they work. And that's kind of what my job is to help you understand how your mind works and how to set yourself up with carrots for those beautiful little chocolate or champagne toasts that that make you happy. And I do think we need to think about, what does work-life balance actually mean, and what is it that we're trying to achieve? I think
It's
maybe
that.
what I'm
Yes.
talking about with that, it may be a little different. That we have this idea of this unachievable, impossible thing often when we talk
Yes.
about work-life balance. And if
Yeah.
you're not happy and enjoying and passionate about what you're doing and feeling overwhelmed constantly, that's not a good place to be.
I
So,
agree. And it sounds like to me, work-life balance needs to be reframed.
yeah,
And instead it's more about boundaries. It's watching your boundaries. It's making sure you're taking care of you. Like you said, whether it's time blocking, because that's how your brain works, or what is that, Kate?
Oh, this is the book on boundaries. It is amazing. And
Book club book.
it's got all of these
Okay.
scripts in there too.
What is it
So
called again? Hold it up
it's
again.
called The Book of Boundaries, Set the Limits That Will Set You Free, as written by Melissa Urban.
Oh, and it's written by a woman. I love it. I'm going to
I
add that
love
to my
book
book club.
recommendations. Writing
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah, give one. Give one, because I gave mine. Let's do it. What's your book? What's yours? And Dana, what's yours? Do you have a
Oh
book
my goodness.
recommendation?
Off the top of my head, I do not, because I
That's
have
okay.
read so many self-help books that I'm to the point now where very little of it sounds new to me. So it's more or less,
Yeah.
I'm working
What happens
more
when you get
so,
older?
like you were saying, I would probably I can give you a planner recommendation.
Oh, I love a good planner.
Yes.
I'm a
Okay,
planner addict.
so the Moxie Life, I am finding the Moxie Life
The Moxie Life. I've heard of it.
planner, goal setting planner,
Yeah.
to be my game changer in terms of being able to, like I was saying, hit all those areas of my life and give them the attention and focus that they need.
And it's not spelled like you would think. Spell Moxie
Correct.
for them, because it's actually spelled differently.
Okay, it's going to be, and I don't know the grammatical symbolism, but it's MAKSE, Moxie.
Yeah. Moxie, MAKSE. It sounds like
Yep.
it might be German or something, because, and you know what? I'm looking for a new planner. I've also created my own planner.
Okay.
Based off of all these, Inkwell Press and just all these things.
Mhm.
I'm a planner addict. So I just want to say
Me too.
thank you.
Me too.
You do? I want to say thank you to all of you. I also want to say thank you for spending time with our ladies and allies this weekend at BizLifeCon. I'm very excited about having you all and expressing and sharing more, even more than what you shared today with everyone. And I will post in the show notes where everyone can find you. And again, I just want to thank you for sharing your time. And Dana, fly safely from Atlanta. And we will see all of you at BizLifeCon, and hopefully all of you on Thursday night at Cocktails and Conversations.
Definitely.
Yay! So have a wonderful day this Tuesday morning. And here's to fall, and here's to all of us badass women over 40, 50, 60.
For sure. Take care, everyone.